How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. My last video was 20 of the most forgotten NBA All-Stars since 2000. Guys like Antonio Davis, Dale Davis, and Josh Howard are players many fans haven't thought about in years, and current players today who are still seeking for their first All-Star appearance: C.J. McCollum, Zach LaVine, and Donovan Mitchell. With that said, let's take a look back at 10 of the greatest players who never became All-Stars since 2000. But before we start this video, some of you know my two favorite phrases are absolute travesty and absolutely useless. I just want to say thank you so much for voting last video on the t-shirts, but for those of you who haven't seen it yet, please vote on which shirt you think looks best. By next week, we'll show the final designs, and once again, one lucky person on the comments will get a free merch. Thank you so much on the feedback. Now here are 10 of the greatest players since 2000 who never became an All-Star. Number 10, Josh Smith. Still shockingly only 33 years old, Smith hasn't officially retired from the NBA yet. Last suited for the New Orleans Pelicans for 3 games, having career averages of 14.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, almost 2 blocks, the 6'9" forward was one of the best defensive players in his days with the Hawks. Being very athletic, able to run the break, finish with crazy slams, had his best season in 2012, averaging just under 19, 10, and 4, 1.5 steals, almost 2 blocks. His production was similar to a young Andre Iguodala, where Smith was arguably the second best player on those Hawks teams that made the postseason behind Joe Johnson. Had more fan votes than Roy Hibbert, who barely averaged double figures in points with limited offensive skills, but the coaches voted for the 7'2" big man over the more athletic, faster Smith. Combined with his bad reputation for the things he doesn't do right rather than the things he does well, at the time, Smith averaged more rebounds than Chris Bosh and was the only player in the top 15 in rebounds, blocks, and steals. Sadly, he's already one of the most forgotten players of the 2010s decade. Number 9, Richard Jefferson, who was one of the best small forwards during his net days, had 2 seasons averaging over 22 a game, was on his way to becoming an All-Star in 2005, but suffered a wrist injury after 33 games into the season, put up 22.2 points, over 7 rebounds, 4 assists. At least he played in the league for 17 seasons, earned about $116 million for his career, and won a championship as a reserve in Cleveland in 2016. Number 8, Al Jefferson, who's the only player in NBA history to make an All-NBA team that was never an All-Star. How the heck does that make any sense? In his prime, he was one of the best offensive centers as well as the best low-post scorers. Played very well with Minnesota after being part of that Kevin Garnett trade, even averaged 21 and 11 after he was traded. Had better numbers than KG in 08, but the 6'10" center wasn't a game changer at all. Basically put up empty stats, averaged over 20 and 10 3 times, but had his liabilities such as speed and defense. Couldn't shoot at all from the outside, which was why he was out of the league so fast. In 2014, while putting up 22 and 11, overrated center Roy Hibbert got the All-Star nod over him. Yes, Hibbert, who averaged half as many points, a little over half the rebounds, and shot 6% worse from the field than Big Al. Everyone knew Al Jefferson was way better than Roy Hibbert at the time. One of the worst All-Star decisions in NBA history. Number 7, Monta Ellis, who also hasn't officially retired yet and tried desperately for a comeback, but no avail, is one of the most forgotten players this decade, having career numbers of 17.8 points, 4.6 assists, but many will sadly remember him for his inefficiency. Had a monster year in 2010 at 24 years old, averaged 25.5 points, over 5 assists, over 2 steals, superstar caliber numbers. The guards who made the All-Star team over him, Steve Nash and old Jason Kidd, Darren Williams, and Chauncey Billups, combined with the fact that Golden State had a terrible record at the time. Nonetheless, Ellis should have gotten Brandon Roy's spot over Chris Kaman. The following year, Monta averaged over 24 a game for the season and over 25 a game when the All-Star team was announced. Even during his time with the Mavs in 2015, put up over 20 a game and 2 steals, being the best player on a 50-win team. With Nowitzki getting worse with age, Ellis still didn't get the recognition he deserved. Maybe if he was in the East, Monta would have been a multiple-time All-Star. Number 6, Andre Miller, one of the most underrated point guards of his era. Miller had one of the highest basketball IQs, and being very dependable for nearly a decade, he was always a threat to give you 15 points, 10 assists over a 7-year stretch. At one point, he played in 632 consecutive games. Nowadays, players cry about playing consecutive games without having enough rest. That's almost 8 straight seasons for Miller without missing a game. In 01-02, Miller averaged 16.5 points, led the league with a career-high 10.9 assists, but because the West had guys like Steve Francis, Steve Nash, and Gary Payton. During his time with the Blazers in 2011, after his teammate LaMarcus Aldridge got snubbed, Miller was furious, saying the league don't appreciate the blue-collar workers. While Tim Duncan was declining, average only 13-9, LA put up 22-9. Aldridge understood why Tim got in because of his Hall of Fame status, and Blake Griffin at the time was one of the most hyped young stars in the league despite the Clippers' struggles, and Angry Miller said, "It's all about publicity and hype, and the league gives these young guys too much respect." Number 5, Jason Terry. Although the Jet never had any individual regular seasons that stood out over the course of his career that was deserving of an All-Star selection, after averaging nearly 20 a game in his second and third season in the league, it seemed like he would become a future All-Star. After being traded to Dallas in summer of 2004, his challenge was to fill in the shoes of Steve Nash, and during his second year with Dallas, the Jet led the team to the NBA Finals, falling to the champion Miami Heat, where he scored over 30 twice that series. Known for being one of the most efficient outside shooters, shooting over 40% from 3 4 different times, Terry was clearly the second most important player on Dallas during Dirk's best years. Playing in one of the most underrated roles for an elite team, Terry was dominant in the 2011 Finals, outscored LeBron in the 6 games, finished with 27 points in Game 6, winning the NBA title. Number 4, Lamar Odom. One of the most underappreciated players in the 2000s, LO had a lot of hype coming out of the University of Rhode Island, was viewed as a 6'10" point forward who can handle the rock, cross you up, rebound, run the floor, and create for teammates. Similar to Ben Simmons, put up 17, 8, and 4 as a rookie, can do a little bit of everything with his versatility, allowing him to play multiple positions, average 17.1 points, almost 10 rebounds, or over 4 assists in his most notable season in 03-04, but Jamal McLeod of the New Orleans Hornets, who put up 13 and 10, made the All-Star team over Odom. Odom was clearly the better player and proved it when the two teams met in the first round of the playoffs. Lamar averaged 16.3 points, 8 rebounds, almost 4 assists on 44% shooting. McLeod 11 points, 9 rebounds on 42% shooting. McLeod also had 6 points on 2 of 7 shooting in Game 7. Odom 16 points that game. An absolute travesty of a decision to have McLeod voted in as an All-Star over Odom. Lamar would be traded after the season and went on to become a solid player on the Lakers championship teams. Came off the bench, was the third option behind Kobe and Powell, won 6th Man of the Year in 2011, and fell off after the Lakers wanted to trade him. Dealt with plenty of adversity off the court, had a near-death experience, and now slowly getting his body healthy again. Number 3, Marcus Camby, who was one of the best defensive bigs in the league. Selected 2nd overall in the loaded 96 class, the 6'11" center is one of the greatest rebounders and shot blockers in NBA history. Led the league in blocks 4 separate times, averaged 3+ blocks 5 different times, and put up double-digit rebounding numbers for 10 seasons. Even when he won Defensive Player of the Year in 07, similar to Rudy Gobert each of the last 2 seasons, Camby didn't make the All-Star team. His presence and impact for his team should have allowed him to make it over Mehmet Okur. The season after, Brandon Roy and David West were the last 2 to make the cut. Unlike other bigs who started to decline in their 30s, Camby got better in his early to mid-30s despite playing 17 seasons and being one of the best defensive bigs ever. Not making the All-Star team once for Marcus Camby was an absolute travesty. Number 2, Mike Conley, who can very well be number 1 on this list when his career's over. Perhaps the most underappreciated player in the 2010s decade, Conley's leadership and winning mentality reminds me of Chauncey Billups. Not the flashiest guy or the one who puts up crazy numbers, but somebody to depend on night in and night out. The 6'1" point guard will turn 32 years old before his debut with the Jazz. With the likes of Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and Damian Lillard playing out west during Conley's best years, that's one of the reasons why he never became an All-Star and likely never will, with the West having better players now. Responsible for leading his team to 7 straight playoff appearances, those Memphis teams would have likely made the finals at least once if they were in the Eastern Conference. Combined with the fact that Conley led his team to 3 straight 50+ wins from 2013 to 2015 wasn't enough to earn him the recognition. One can make the case Conley's a better player than Kyle Lowry. While Lowry averaged 14 a game in 2019 and made the All-Star team in the East, on a way better team, Conley put up 21 a game team and wasn't even close to making it in the West. And the fact that Larry had 5 All-Star appearances in the Eastern Conference compared to Conley 0 for their careers, an absolute travesty at all levels. Number 1, Mike Bibby, one of the best point guards in the early 2000s as the 2nd overall pick in '98 behind bust Michael Olowokandi. After spending his first 3 seasons with Vancouver, the Kings traded away their starting point guard Jason Williams for Bibby, a team that got swept by the Lakers in the 01 playoffs. Bibby made the Kings heavy title contenders, being a part of one of the most complete and underrated starting 5s in the early 2000s. Teammates Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic, and Vlade Divac all made the All-Star team with the Kings, but Bibby didn't. While he simply made everybody better, he was also the Kings' go-to guy in the clutch, leading them to a 62-20 record in 02, being the X-Factor, falling 1 game short of the finals to the Lakers in a very controversial series because his numbers weren't eye-popping. That's why he never got the recognition. Bibby's biggest snub year was arguably 2005, putting up averages of 19.6 points, 6.8 assists, and over 4 rebounds on a team filled with injured players, was overlooked by guys like Manu Ginobili and Rashard Lewis, second options on very good teams. Nonetheless, Bibby will always be remembered as a great leader for Kings fans. Honorable mentions includes Jamal Crawford, Steven Jackson, Jason Richardson, Brent Barry, Serge Ibaka, Jalen Rose, Lou Williams, Corey Maggette, Rudy Gay, and Kevin Martin. Who do you guys think was the best player who never became an All-Star in the last 20 years? Thank you so much for watching this video. I talk NBA comparisons, amazing storylines, NBA history, and anything basketball that would interest you. If you love the NBA, subscribe for more content, more great stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.